Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm back with some more information. Today, we're going to talk about the destruction of ancient cities and artifacts. It's another chapter in the book I was reading from yesterday, and you will find this quite interesting. And like I said, everything I say, don't believe it, research it. Okay? Don't believe it, research it. But I think that you'll find this one quite interesting, very interesting, worth listening to. So this chapter is called The Destruction of Ancient Cities and Artifacts. From the moment of the arrival of the Europeans to the North American continent, many of the indigenous cultures began to show signs of decline. The lack of historical information led some to believe that these societies were the victims of some sort of extinction. But new archaeological evidence shows that the process was one of replacement and social evolution. Sound familiar? The burden of the lack of historical information lay directly in the hands of the conquering Europeans, and later to the European settlers. As stated previously, when the Europeans arrived to the shores of North America, they encountered Negroid societies, and the conquerors did not want to leave evidence behind of advanced Negroid cultures that exhibited systems of civilization. Many of the descriptions of the indigenous people were of the Americas, described people of a dark complexion. There were people in Panama that were described as such. And this is a direct quote. These people are identical with the Negroes we have seen in Guinea, Africa. In the early 1560s, a Spanish official wrote to the king that in the island of Puerto Rico, there are over 15,000 Negroes and less than 500 Spaniards. In all of the Hispaniola, there may be 2,000 Spaniards, and there are over 30,000 Negroes. The same is the case in the island of Cuba, and in Veracruz, Puerto de Caballos, which is in Honduras, and in Nombre de Dios, Cartagena, I'm butchering these names, but you know what I'm talking about, Santa Maria, and the coast of Venezuela, where there are 20 Negroes to one white man. Negro was a terminology that defined a person of a dark complexion. The term Negro or its equivalent was not used for race, a concept that in the early 1500s had not yet developed, or for a single stock of people, or to point to ancestry or ethnicity. It was usually a single description for perceived color or appearance, and Negro was one of many terminologies that was used to define the indigenous inhabitants of North America. So when Christopher Columbus and the other explorers and conquerors began to navigate the Americas, they immediately began to utilize the indigenous people and began their destruction of the indigenous cultures. And you know what? One thing I want to understand is what happened to the offspring of the Spanish conquistadors and Christopher Columbus. Where did they go? I'm interested to know. Of course, slavery was a major factor in the destruction of numerous indigenous tribes and nations in North America. But another just as disparaging factor was the destruction of the ancient cities, and artifacts that will completely conceal the true identities of the original inhabitants of this continent. Remember, the Europeans needed to remove everything that would not benefit their existence in the New World, and it was imperative to remove any remnants of civilized living. One of the most glaring examples of this destruction was the virtual total obliteration of Mayan artifacts. After the Spanish conquest of the Yucatan, Diego de Landa Calderon, a Franciscan friar, was sent there in 1549 to Christianize the indigenous Maya people. By 1552, he was in charge of the covenant of the important town of Izamal. And by 1561, he held the highest position available at the time in the religious hierarchy of Yucatan as the provincial or head of the Franciscan province. That next year, after this appointment, he ordered an inquisition against the native inhabitants of the area, accusing them of idolatry. He destroyed almost all of the original Mayan writings, claiming they were tainted by superstitions. Many of these writings were sacred writings in the history of the Mayan people and their culture. Landa was shown these works in confidence because the Mayan people believed he was a man of honor. Along with the destruction of the writings, he also destroyed thousands of artifacts and thousands of sculptures, and works of art, declaring that they were works of pagans. He was accused by his own associates of excessive cruelty against the people and was sent back to Spain to address these charges. While in Spain, perhaps feeling remorseful of his destructive deeds, he wrote a book about the Maya entitled Yucatan Before and After the Conquest. 99% of what he knows of the Mayas, we know as a result either of what Landa has told us or have learned in the use and study of what he told us in this book. So today, we know of Mayan histories from what Diego de Landa wrote in his book. So if 9900s of our knowledge is at base derived from what he told us, it is equally a safe statement that at the auto de fe Inquisition of 62, he burned 99 times as much knowledge of Maya history and sciences as he has given us in this book. No one will ever know the history that was lost in the volumes of history of the Maya that were destroyed, nor will we know how much of the information that Landa wrote is tainted with European bias. That was the end of that chapter. Like I said, these chapters aren't long, but they're filled with information. They're filled with the things that matter, and they're filled with things that you can kind of chew on and research for yourself and come up with your own conclusion if you don't feel like this conclusion is good enough for you. So I'm going to continue to drop heat. I'm going to continue to drop information. I'm going to continue to drop things that make you think. I'm going to continue to drop things that you can use as research material. So God bless you. I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you on the next one.